Okay, so first stream death, and it wasn't even 4 minutes in the stream, so I'm not going to bother archiving that little bit. Don't worry, Starscream, you literally didn't miss anything. So, to recap, this showcase will be about the F-15E Strike Eagle, my favorite non-superplane in the series. And if you look at its stats, you can see why. It's almost perfect in every aspect save for mobility, and even then, you won't notice its overall lack of mobility because everything else compensates for it. It has a very good wide array of special weapons, making this the most versatile aircraft that isn't the Nosferatu in A6. I just wish that Talisman's cannon livery wasn't so boring. So, for the base, we're going to use the Strike Eagle, or the Oral Strike Eagle.
Talisman, how about my weaponry? Are we ready to fly?
Garuda team, time to take off.
And we're doing Ragno Fortress. What the hell, for shits and giggles, we'll do the tunnel.
A message to all the Estevakians out there, don't be too disappointed once we shoot down all your toys.
There we go.
I'm gonna present a couple of Golden King medals to Garuda team. Made them myself.
Diving back in. Yep.
Don't listen to civilian airwaves during missions. Today's objective is to recapture Ragno Fortress.
Warlock Battalion is on its way to Ragno Fortress. Our plan is to break through the center. This is Windover. We're prepared to knock out their substations and
Starscream, you're gonna have to get over your hatred of Fortress from Ace 5. Ragno Fortress is not like it.
Use everything you've got. Once we get over this canyon, Grace Mary is straight ahead.
At least Ragno Fortress gives you an idea of what you need to do to win. Anyway, as I was saying before the stream died on me, my prejudice against the F4 is largely due to how inept the Air Force used an interceptor by making an air superiority fighter.
Defensive wall confirmed down.
And because of that, we lost
Facilities inside the fortress.
lives. We lost pilots who were dogfighting in a plane that was never meant to dogfight at all. And while again that's not entirely the Phantom's fault, it's still really could only do one thing. Well, go fast and hit things from long range. It's great for an interceptor, but that's not what the Air Force used it for, and that's not what... And they basically pushed the Navy's original plan out the window. That's true. Because, I mean, because we lost so many F4 pilots, because the Air Force brass were fucking morons, the Navy did institute Top Gun and commission the F-14 so that the F-4 debacle would never happen again. So, you're right, there is a small bright spot. But I hate that it had to come at the cost of American pilots.
All defenses of the main passage. Lieutenant Colonel Nicholson, give me a damage report.
This is beyond me. I've never found a place like this. You have set up.
Operation target destroyed. Just one left.
Enemy plane in gun range. Garuda 1, Fox 2.
There. This is Shamrock. I've got a visual on the substation facilities.
Those facilities supply power to the fortress. Taking them out will weaken their defenses.
Shoot down approaching enemy fighters and avoid combat above those facilities. Raise him out there. He's right on my tail.
Enemy facility was destroyed.
Oh no, the politicians were, they cost so many lives because they didn't let the military fight the war. They were concerned about how it looked politically, and they didn't want to anger the Soviets.
This is Warlock. We're getting killed out here. Send cover now. We have to keep fighting. Fight back.
So they basically let the North Vietnamese dictate where we could fight and where we couldn't. And when you let your enemy dictate your battlefield for you, well, you've lost. But the fact that we were using substandard equipment also didn't work in our favor.
Blast open all those containers. Those are the enemy's lifeline. This is Windhopper. We're prepared to knock out their substations and supply routes on the water to cripple their forces.
Now, there is a Navy fighter from Vietnam, an F-4 contemporary, that did what the Air Force wanted the F-4 to be able to do. It was a dedicated air superiority fighter. And it had one of the best kill ratios in the entire Vietnam War on the American side.
They are approaching Warlock Battalion.
The Vought F-8 Crusader. If you don't know what that is, yeah, exactly, the F-8. I love the F-8. I wish it was in Ace Combat, because it's amazing. 4 20mm cannons and 4 Sidewinders.
Garuda team, Warlock is in trouble. Take out
And those
all enemy
cannons
forces in their
aren't
path.
external, they're internal. She was called the last gunfighter
Lock on.
because in an age where more and more fighters were getting stripped of their guns, she had 4 of them purpose-built.
Enemy plane down.
And while the MiGs would jump F-4 flights, they would flee in terror from F-8 flights. But for some probably political reason, the Air Force brass is able to force Vought out of the competition. Getting a pretty good deal with McDonnell Douglas to basically only use the F-4. Oh yeah, 4 20mm. That was its primary armament. Sidewinders were supplemental. I mean, yeah, all American fighters now have 20mm cannons, but only one, and it's meant to be the last resort. Their missiles are still the primary weapon. Oh, looks like we failed Operation A. Well.
Enemy facility was destroyed.
We've got a power failure in Building 3. Output has decreased a great deal.
Yeah, if they ever do a Cold War style or era ace combat game, I want the F-8 to be the super plane. Because that thing is a monster.
We have radar lock on. Fox 2. Ground target has been eliminated.
Yeah, targeting computers are a lot better, but the most important thing is the missiles themselves are better. Back in Vietnam, Sidewinders, or early Sidewinders, were notoriously unreliable. They could get spoofed by the background ground heat. They could lock on to other bogus heat signatures like, oh, I don't know, that, the sun. The Sparrows weren't any better. Half the time they would just fall off the rack and not activate. And then half of the remaining time, they wouldn't track properly due to them getting lost in the ground clutter. They also couldn't handle very many Gs. So they was absolutely sucked in a dogfight.
Just gotta take out the fortress itself and get our country back. Townsman, you're the man of the hour. Show us some of your best moves.
You've watched dogfights? I have the entire series on DVD. It's one of my favorites.
Surrounding enemy forces have been weakened. Commence attacks on the fortress itself. I'll be sending the target data.
Alright, I'm gonna go reload.
Concentrate all fire on specified targets.
Actually, you know what? I don't need to.
I've sent
I have
coordinates
20
to
of
the
these
first
things
target.
left.
Check your radars.
Also because we did the tunnel operation. That means the secondary wave is going to be a lot smaller.
Ground target destroyed. Fox 2.
Yeah, it was on the History Channel here in the States. Although the History Channel isn't really the same anymore. So you can't get it on American TV anymore. You gotta have it on DVD. But I love how in all the Vietnam ones, where they have F-4 pilots, a consistent story is, if only I had missiles, I could have gotten that MiG. Or if only I had a gun, I could have gotten that MiG.
Enemy plane in gun range.
They also did an episode where it showed what happens if you do give the F4 a gun. Still not as good as Crusader, but it helped tremendously. Although one of my favorite episodes was Taffy 3. The story of how one small American task force comprised of an escort carrier,
Enemy tank has been destroyed.
2 or 3 destroyers, and 4 or 5 destroyer escorts fended off and drove off
We have radar lock on.
a Japanese armada led by the battleship Yamato.
Launching missile.
All because Bull Halsey was stupid enough to take Japanese bait.
Enemy hit. Ground target destroyed.
The one quote of that episode that really sticks out to me is
Careful now. The enemy has
the radio man on the bridge of the Johnston, after deploying the smoke screen to protect the carrier. He's like, please don't let us go down with our torpedoes still in their tubes. The captain's like, all right then, let's go fix that. And immediately ordered destroyers not
The enemy has a lock on
currently deploying smoke
Weapon impact confirmed.
to make torpedo runs.
We need more firepower. Where the hell is Trooper Battalion? Where's the return fire?
I mean, they fought so hard that even Japanese sailors manned the rails as they
Watch out. The enemy
passed
has a
by
lock
the
on you.
burning wreckage of the Johnston,
Struck target.
which is basically the naval equivalent of the missing man formation. So for an enemy to do that for a fallen ship, especially the
Launching
Japanese,
missile.
who thought themselves superior to everyone else in every way, that takes a lot of respect.
Woohoo! On to the next one.
Target coordinates have been sent. This is the last group.
A missile. Talisman. Take evasive action.
Alright, no Harriers. Oh wait, there are a few Harriers. Normally there's a lot more. One thing to note, though, is in World War II there were technically 2 Japanese factions vying for
Keep an eye on your 6
influence.
o'clock.
The Japanese Navy and the Japanese Army.
Garuda 1
The
on the
Navy
way.
was actually relatively hesitant in going to war. They were typically more honorable
The enemy has you on radar.
than the Army. And a lot of the atrocities you've heard that the Japanese committed in World War II, that was largely due to the Army. The Navy also was the main faction that was like, hey, we lost. We should probably surrender. It was the Army that was largely
Watch out. The enemy has a lock
the
on you.
ones that were resisting the
Target
surrender,
Enemy facility taken out.
and I mean, don't get me wrong, the Navy also is culpable, but they were far less likely to, attack a civilian transport. Largely because I think they figured it was beneath them.
Careful now.
For example, at Pearl Harbor, the Navy and the Navy pilots spared the hospitals. They spared the civilian buildings. They also spared the fuel reserves and a lot of the dry dock facilities because they weren't armed targets. That was dishonorable for a samurai to do. They got their act together when it came to Midway, but that was after we
All enemy forces within Rogno have been destroyed.
started
We
rebuilding.
have successfully taken back the fortress.
This is Leonid Battalion. All areas are secure. We are now in a stone
But no,
zone.
Our
as
special
much
forces
as
came in from a different route and have secured the inside. Rogno
American
fortress is
media
under American
and
control.
history would
Mission accomplished.
say that
Our special forces can
Japanese
pump
struck
up
a
the
major
rest.
blow at
Head back
Pearl,
to base,
and
Garuda team.
they did.
We're really on a roll. No one can stop
It
us
could
now.
have been a lot worse. Our carriers were out at sea. Our dry dock facilities and oil
Although it's often been
stores
called impregnable, we have taken over Rogno
weren't
Fortress.
damaged that
Slovakia
much.
has just lost all their trump cards. No one can stop us now.
And
all that's left is to head for Grace Maria.
out of the 8 battleships that were quote-unquote sunk that day, only 2 never were repaired. The USS Oklahoma, because she capsized, and the USS Arizona, because her keel was blown in half. And she just sunk so fast. All the others were raised, repaired, and were out fighting in the war by, I believe, 1943. Anyway, let's see here. What next? What next? What next? We'll do Vitose. Oh, no problem. I love military history.
A large-scale formation of Slovakian bombers is heading toward Vitose.
And
A city
World War
here on the
II
island
has
of
always
Kessel.
fascinated me. 'Cause
The
it
enemy's
was-
plotting to storm Campania Airport, where our military
No,
is
it wasn't.
stationed, to stamp us out.
It
Put
largely Pearl's impact was it was a major morale blow. We did get heavily set back by Pearl. Because we lost all of our battleships for at least a couple years. The only combat worthy ships we had were the 3 carrier task forces. The Lexington, the Hornet, Yorktown, Hornet, and Enterprise. Wait, we did have the Lexington back then, but she was lost relatively early in the war. So basically we just had the 3 carriers and their supporting destroyers and a few subs and some light cruisers. We lost a lot of our heavy ships at Pearl. But all we really needed to do was stall for time. And fortunately for us, the Japanese at that time was basically at overstretch, so they couldn't press their advantage. Anyway, now we go to the first DLC, the Active Stripes. I really like the Garuda emblem on the tail. But this is based off the NASA F-15 the SMTD. But as we can see, we lose some defense and air to ground instability because we lose a lot of our weapons. We also lose a bit of speed, but we gain a lot of mobility. High maneuver experimental aircraft. The redesigned lightweight frame sacrifices durability and payload for a marked increase in turn performance. And go with
Which plane
XM86s.
should I select?
And
Are we ready to fly with these planes?
Garuda team, time to take off.
so I've not actually used the active
Those bombers have
so
passed
this
through
will
the
be an
mountains and are
interesting
still on course for
experience.
Vitose.
They're here.
Head
I do
back
like
to
the
base if
blue
you need
lines
supplies.
kind of
You can land there
going
at
from
any
the
time.
front of the engine intake, outlining the the central part of the. Okay, yeah, this one has a lot better maneuverability
A formation of enemy bombers is on its way to Vitose.
than the
Take them
base, but I'm not sure if it's worth the lack of weapons.
out. This territory is all we've got left. Garuda team, it's in your hands. We've got to intercept those bombers. Stay within range of the radar facility. That should give you the upper hand in battle.
Is Slovakia trying to raise our entire country? Where are the
Also,
enemy
due to the
bombers?
lack of stability, this will not be as good as Strike Fighter, as the base model is. Which is a good thing that I put the air-to-air mission, huh? All phantoms must die.
Enemy aircraft down.
Yeah, I found one.
More enemy
Also, I
bombers
really
detected
need
on
to
radar. It looks like another formation.
break the habit of double firing sidewinders. This is A6, I don't always need to do that. You know, the propaganda asshole does seem to have a Slavic accent.
More planes are showing up on radar. It's another bomber formation. Intercept.
Also, the Active Stripes looks very patriotic.
Damn it.
As a American, I approve.
I got a lot.
Hooking Yeba's cousin.
Enemy plane down.
Second enemy bomber is down.
More enemy bombers incoming. There's quite a few this time.
kill for Garuda 1.
All phantoms must die.
Watch out! The enemy has a lock on you.
Enemy bombers incoming. Intercept.
Thank you, Annie. Had a lot of practice with this gun.
Bombers are still incoming. Stay sharp.
Come on.
We have radar lock on.
Well, the stall speed has been increased.
Box 2.
Right. Well, probably Nugget, but we Americans love red, white, and blue so much we slap that shit on everything.
Watch out! The enemy has a lock on you.
Take out those bombers first and foremost. Don't worry about the escort.
I'm honestly surprised we haven't slapped blue on peppermints yet.
Garuda 1, ESM is active.
Lock on.
6 enemy bombers down.
Bandit hit.
At base number 7.
Box 2.
Get him! Get right once more! This is Bomber 6. Bring more supplies. I lost a wingman.
Bomber number 8 confirmed down.
Give me a bullseye.
Radar lock.
Ninth
Alright,
bomber down.
Mirage. You're getting in my way.
Enemy bombers are approaching the city. Intercept.
Missile went off target.
Work with our radar facilities on the
Boom!
ground. They should be able to help you out.
So, has anybody seen the free games for the month on PS Plus
Missile
for
struck
June?
target.
All enemy bombers have been eliminated. We somehow plucked every last one of them.
Apparently, it's going to be Call of Duty World War II
I have to say you handled things well.
and EA's Star Wars Battlefront 2 or
Roger that,
Battlefield
Avalanche.
2,
I'll
whatever
just
you wanna
report
call
you
it.
as gunned down and missing in action.
Which means that I'll finally be able to play the campaign on that one and compare it to Pandemic's original Battlefront 2. This campaign. Well, yeah, it's great for me because I'll never actually buy the
Our
game.
forces have taken
I
advantage of this
refuse
weak-
to give EA any money that they don't deserve. Like, I actually did go ahead and buy Fallen Order, and I don't regret it because it is actually a good game. But I refuse to pay for Battlefront 2, so the fact that it's going to be the free game of the month, it's like, I'll actually play it. Anyway,
Attention all pilots. Our capital city, Grace Maria, is under attack by unknown aircraft.
yeah, I plan to, in June, stream the campaign of EA Front 2. And then immediately afterwards, I'm going to stream the Journal of the 501st from the original Battlefront 2 for a comparison. But I'm not going to do the multiplayer in Battlefront 2 because I don't have that I don't have the time or patience for that grind time, or that time sink. Anyway, the next DLC is actually my favorite in the entire, of all the 80 planes that I have in this game. This one is my favorite. This is the one that really inspired me to get the Holy Trinity. Cypher's F-15. We lose some mobility, but it's still more than the base. We gain a lot of speed. Air to air is near max. Air to ground is near max. We don't gain any weapons, though. We also regain stability, but we lose defense. Now, interesting note, the reason why the air-to-air and air-to-ground are so much more powerful, despite the fact that we didn't gain any SP weapon counts, is actually due to the gun. In both Zero F-15 planes, the gun is about as powerful as the A-10's gun. It's, I think it's due to a higher rate of fire. So basically, both the Cypher and Pixie F-15s essentially have the same damage output as that A-10's 30mm cannon. And it's awesome. And spoiler alert, the Cypher plane will win my #1 rank for the F-15's judgment. Also, there's a reason why I picked Invasion. Because we get to see Cypher and Pixie fly in formation. PJ in the back.
Garuda 1 liftoff. Cerberus team runway clearance granted. Takeoff when ready.
I love Cypher's livery. It's so simple and minimalist, but it just works so well.
Airborne warning and control system ghost eye to all scrambling defense craft. The situation has not yet been ascertained. We must implement an emergency reformation. Follow your individual instructions. Garuda 1, you do not have a wingman. Let's see. Shamrock. Shamrock, are you alone too? Very well. As of now, you're Garuda 2.
Okay. So I'm Garuda 2. Garuda 1, I've got your back. No time for introductions now, though. Go ahead and I'll follow your lead. Never was good with directions anyhow.
Garuda team, you are authorized to engage any hostile aircraft above Grace Maria.
Ah, the boys are back together again.
May the Golden King smile upon us.
Time to dive in the fireworks.
Ghost eye to Garuda 1 Talisman and Garuda 2 Shamrock. We are currently in a state of emergency. Our nation is under attack by unknown forces. Do whatever you can to fend off the invasion.
Garuda 2, roger that. Garuda 1, you call the shots.
This is Commander Windhunter of the 15th Squadron.
Oh, wow.
Expanding its field
Dovahkian threat level has been reduced. You should be able to hold out against them.
Garuda 1, we've almost got him. Let's do this one plane at a time.
Damn it. Be able to get the Rafales to spawn in because the Hornets broke up too fast.
Unbelievable. I say we teach him a few manners before we kick him out.
See how fast that was? That gun kill. Alright, since we can't get the Rafales to spawn, let's just kill everything else.
An intense ground war is taking place in the East District. We strongly urge all citizens
Look how
to
fast I'm
stay
going.
indoors at this time.
This is really fast.
Garuda team, watch your necks out there. Stick with close-range targets and run them down.
It's also extremely stable, so bombing runs are easier.
Watch out! The enemy has
I don't know what that means, Manny. Oh, I am speed, okay.
In gun range.
Kill confirmed. Good job.
Well, I was almost at 1800 knots.
Watch out! The enemy has a lock on you.
Keep an eye on your 6 o'clock. Launching missile. Missile was evaded.
Come on. Excuse me. Boom!
Radar lock. Enemy plane down. Enemy at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I'd imagine that the Americans are in quite a panic. There's an air battle going over the city.
Garuda 1, Fox 3.
I think the only other large-scale aerial battle that we have over a city that happened before the invasion of Grace Maria was the air raid over November City in 5. Granted, there's the liberation of Directus, but the civilians were actually in a
Garuda 1, Fox 3.
they were helping out with that one. Oh, Manny, I feel your pain with the old potato laptop. I can barely run an emulated version of X. And that's without the HD texture packs.
Talisman has locked on.
Watch out! The enemy has a lock on you!
Enemy aircraft down.
Oh, I take that back. There was also a pedo from Ace 5 too.
That's what I like to hear. Our Air Force is holding down the enemy. Keep it up.
I would say
Slovakian
Bana
threat
City,
level is even
but
lower now. Drive them out of America.
given the reaction of the police force, they were having too much fun with it. So, yeah, I wouldn't call them terrified. Probably just, you know, it would be like how back in the 90s everyone watched in awe
What's this?
the
Missiles.
O.J. Simpson police chase.
Number 3, your radio's down. Number 3, where are you? Somebody in the cruise missiles just detonated in midair.
So they'd be watching with glued to their televisions, watching the police chase between
Cruise missile incoming.
the Bana City police, armed with anti-tank rifles, and
Damn it!
the
What about our city? What about
getaway
Grace Marion?
van that's throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at the cops to try and get rid of them. And then the 4 Ocean Mirages just go derping around. Oh, what do we do? Too much fun riding home to get an anti-tank rifle.
Planes have been spotted on radar. You don't want to know how many.
I brought it from home. Oh, holy shit. I totally spaced out and didn't see the Striggans come in. Whoops! Just an average Ocean home defense weapon. Say what you will about American lax gun laws, but I don't think even we allow civilians to have anti-tank rifles. I don't think. I could be wrong.
We are militarily at a huge disadvantage.
I don't live in Texas or Florida, so I can't say speak for them.
Listen, it's only temporary.
Or Montana.
The plan is to withdraw, meet up with all remaining forces from each area, then regroup for a counterattack. Can't afford to lose you. Follow the order.
This is Garuda 2 to Garuda 1. We really should get out of here.
Target kill confirmed. That's it, Pusher. Looking good. We're going to sweep that area under the rug.
Yeah, this just goes to show that if you don't get the jump on the Strigan team, they can be hard to kill in this mission. You just have to get the jump on them.
Airspace and head west.
And I totally spaced out. Because we were reminiscing about Ocean police officers bringing anti-tank rifles from home and shooting fried chickens with it.
Garuda team, you're about to exit the combat zone. Maintain your course west to
And
leave the
TVs.
airspace.
What else did the Ukes throw out of that van? I remember the fried chicken and the TV. Did they also throw out like a sofa or something?
The captain's always on the ball.
Either
Team, you've made
8
it out of the combat zone. Head for the
or
rendezvous
12.
point.
I've never actually gotten a count.
Just a little longer.
Promise. And it's best to basically fly straight out into the bay because they will come in
Ghost died.
right in front of you, and you can basically, with your multi-lock missile, fire those, have Shamrock do the same, and then bring in the Allied assault. See, minigun, throw in a microwave.
But our capital, Grace Maria, and our forces remaining on the once the.
All right, let's see. Siege on Silvat.
We've got a large unit of troops on Rollins' Plain.
Next is Pixie. Now, compared to Cypher, he loses some air-to-air, but gains some stability. Not much, but a little bit.
Talisman, which plane should I pick?
In order to keep the theme of Zero Wingman. Oh, Starscream, you missed Cypher. I'm sorry.
Are we ready to fly with these planes?
Garuda team, time to take off.
Now, interesting note. Because of the way that A6 textures work, they couldn't render the bottom of the wing if it wasn't symmetrical.
That's right. Our ground
That's why the bottom of
supplies.
the Pixie's wing isn't red.
Stomach.
And I learned that from Acepedia. But now, I've normally never used Pixie just because I'm not the wingman, I'm Cypher. Why would I be Pixie when I can be the Demon Lord of the Round Table? Oh, I forgot to read Pixie's description. I'll do that after.
Initiate close range air support. Get out there and hit what you can.
Bust some heads, Talisman. Take care of business.
Now, even though Shamrock is in PJ's plane, he does a lot better job at killing things than PJ ever did.
The Stogies are after our runway.
Well, yeah, but Shamrock didn't. Pixie was a coward. Yeah, but you do know why he got the name Solo Wing, right? His backstory was inspired from the true story of an Israeli losing his right wing and landing the F-15.
All planes, the runway in this airspace is clear for landing. Take advantage if you need help.
And I don't think Pixie was a coward. He was an idealist that fell to cynicism.
Talisman is locked on. Enemy threat level down. Keep it up, Garuda team.
And honestly, I think he was manipulated by Bristow.
Connecting ESM for Garuda 1.
And the only reason why I say that is because unlike the others in A World with No Boundaries,
Was evaded.
he's the only one that really regrets what he did. He admitted he was wrong and is basically walking the world trying to atone for his sins. That's not a coward, that takes guts. No, you don't shoot someone in the back. But I can forgive that because of how the interviews portrayed Pixie. He's a broken man because of what he did. It's why I love Pixie as a character.
The enemy threat level has dropped again, as Devakians are down to 30% of their forces.
And as much as I loathe to admit it,
Are there any fighters available to cover
Sly's
the
right.
battalion?
Character-wise, Pixie is the best.
Response from all
Even though I like Shamrock gameplay better, I can't deny that Pixie is the best character wingman. But yeah, when in his interviews, it's 2004, 2005 is when his interviews take place. He is on the Erusian border at Delarus. What happened in Usia in 2004? The Continental War. Pixie was fighting in the Continental War, in my opinion, to find Cypher.
Dragon Busters have lost about 40% of their forces. They can't do this alone.
And I think he was doing that to try and apologize. Why else would an admittedly older soldier give up his wings to fight a ground war? Pixie was fighting on ISAF's side. And that right there is why I think it would be so great if Cypher actually was Mobius Wing.
Let's take on enemy forces at the rear. Grizzly Battalion's gotta make it back to the city.
No idols this stream. I have an entire stream dedicated to nothing but idol masters. So it wouldn't be fair to the other DLC.
Enemy plane in gun range.
Careful now. The enemy has you on radar.
Ow.
How could that have been?
Stupid. Hornet. There we go.
Lock on!
Garuda 1, Fox 2.
Never had this much problems with yeah, the waifu skin for this one is great. The only problem is if you get hit, you violently dive down. Which is pretty bad when you're doing a strafing run.
Enemy forces are down to 30%. Garuda team, finish them off.
is this Hornet? Or not Hornet, but Warthog. There it is.
Garuda team, think you can cover Barracuda? They're not gonna make it without any support.
Fuck! Yep. That's
Garuda
okay.
team, think you can cover?
Luckily, checkpoints exist. Well, it's a bubble cockpit. Supposed to?
I'm coming in too fast. Ease up on the throttle. 1 mile to touchdown.
Curious.
You're too high. Lower your nose.
This might turn out really badly, but I have to know. Yep, this is bad.
Abort approach. Go around the landing pattern and try again. Garuda 1, begin landing checks.
I had to know.
Garuda 1, you are cleared for takeoff.
You cannot land on the taxiway.
We've received a telegram from HQ Command. You're to go after an Estovac.
Thank you for joining me on this little episode of Science with Raspberries, where we learned that in A6 you cannot, in fact, land on the taxiway.
All ground units are to spread out and close in on the Estovac unit. Show no mercy. Dragon Busters, Roger. Time to get personal.
Manny, if a runway actually does have 2 runways in A6, like in Grace Maria, you can, in fact, land on the 2nd runway. You just can't land on the taxiway.
Box 3, box 3.
Lock on.
Locking on.
Oh my god.
I got a lock. Box 2.
Nugget, this isn't tandem, it's inline. And there is one aircraft that looks fantastic with a dual-seater cockpit. The F-14. It's true. Firefly. Both Cypher and Pixie have faster
Mission is
guns.
going well. All forces, keep the pressure on.
Yeah, this whole series is that I'm doing is the DLC showcase to kind of show off the altered stats of all the DLC. The only reason why I'm not doing the Idolmaster is because I've already done a complete Idolmaster only stream. And I felt that would be redundant.
SM
Yeah,
for
let's
Garuda 1.
see how fast this gun works on the gun train. Yeah, I would only be at a quarter
Enemy's got a
damage
Shamrock
to the
launcher.
gun train with a normal gun. The A-10 does a little bit more damage than Cypher and Pixie, but still.
Enemy vehicle has been destroyed. Bombs away. Talisman is locked on. Weapon impact confirmed.
Oh, they're dead.
Careful now. The enemy has you on radar.
Armored vehicle destroyed. Garuda 1 launched missile.
Although Pixie does seem to have a little bit more problems attacking ground targets than
Garuda 1, ESM is active.
Cypher's skin does. For some reason, the Sidewinders don't track as well.
Enemy tank destroyed.
Even the gun smoke is black compared to the normal grayish.
Garuda 1, bombs away.
You know what this gun smoke reminds me of? The A-10's gun.
SAM destroyed. The threat level for remaining Estevakian forces is down to about 60%.
Zero's missile tracking. Yeah, kinda.
Garuda 1, bombs away. Enemy facility was destroyed.
I tagged one. I have it.
In gun range.
Garuda 1 scored a kill. Fire.
Yeah, against aircraft, Cypher and Pixie's gun is basically instant
That
kill.
anti-aircraft gun's
You can hit it.
lock on.
So if you're going guns only run, that's not a bad. Cypher plane isn't a bad one to do it on.
The threat level for remaining Estevakian forces is about 40%.
Dance with the devil, Stoney.
Bombs away. The threat level for remaining Estevakian forces is down to about 20%.
All right, we have one more DLC for the
Enemy
F-15
forces have been eliminated from the mission areas. That's enough dancing for today.
to test
Time to
out
Get on home now.
I could have danced a few more numbers.
before I give my judgments.
Don't get
And
that
since
scuffed
Cypher
kid
is
until after
obviously number
bedtime.
one, for an admittedly somewhat subjective reason, it's a battle for second place.
Our besieged unit is not between all.
And for this one, no, I don't want to do Slim Peak. We'll do Sipley Field. Sipley Field's fast.
You've been ordered to start.
Alright. The last DLC we're going to test is the Rosgrees. Now, compared to base stats, what we can see is they basically just increase the defense while lowering the air-to-air. They might have also... No, they didn't increase the speed. They've lowered the air-to-air. I was going to read that. Let's see that. Ace Combat Zero Wingman Pixie aircraft. Armor has been lightened to increase stability with an array of counter-strike customizations. This aircraft can immediately adapt to changes on the battlefield. Republic of Ustio's Mercenary Golem Unit Number 2, Pixie nearly lost his left wing during combat, but miraculously completed the mission and returned to base, earning him the name Solo Wing Pixie. He continued his military career, earning numerous accolades as Cypher's wingman. They get this wrong. I believe he lost his right wing, which is why the right wing is red. And I don't think I read this one either. This aircraft's armor has been lightened to facilitate greater firepower, fully customized preventive striking capabilities, place this fighter at the forefront of any battle. As the leader of Republic Ustio's Mercenary Golem Unit, Cypher's overwhelming fighting skills amidst the escalating conflict quickly earned him the moniker the Demon Lord of the Round Table. Both feared and respected, his was the path of a true ace. I love that description. So yeah, Rosgrees has the same weapons loadout as the base, same gun speed as the base. Basically, we're just a more tankier F-15. And we'll go unguided bomb. Yeah, we'll have rest. No, not you don't get bombs.
Team, time to take off.
Shamrock never gets bombs. I don't trust him with bombs.
Ghost Eye to all forces. We're about to engage enemy units on the other side of the river from multiple angles.
This is Warlock Battalion.
As you see, they're basically the unguided, or the UGBLs, technically.
Garuda team, provide cover for our troops on the ground and eliminate all Slovakian ground forces. Choose any area you want to cover. Cross the return line if you need supplies. It's at the south end of the airspace.
We've got way more guys than us. Great confidence booster, huh? Let's get on, Garuda 1.
Yeah, Ace 5 is the only one that where the Rosgrees liveries put on every aircraft. And in fact, that's kind of referenced in Ace 6. All the Ace 6 planes have a Rosgrees
Operation ID device
skin.
when the battle gets too heavy. Your radar display can be toggled for each operation.
You're right. However, the F-15 is widely considered Cypher's cannon plane. Now granted, it's up to player's choice, but since that F-15 is on the box, or cover, that's considered his cannon plane, and therefore the blue wingtips are considered Cypher's livery. But no, you're right. For an all-encompassing one, Ace 5's Rosgrees is the only one that gets it. But that's justified in story.
Don't let enemy forces reach Warlock Battalion. Take them out before they cross the bridge.
Although you could say that, well, no, you can't. I was going to say that talisman also does, but no, that's just his emblem. And even then, the Amarian livery isn't all that
On to a different unit.
much to look at.
Ghost Tide to Garuda team, listen up. Aircraft that have already completed their operation objective are being sent your way. Call them in when you need backup.
I've never heard of Air Force Strike Delta. What is it?
Shamrock, Fox 3. I have him. Garuda 2, enemy chopper down.
Oh. Konami, huh? Well, nothing's as good as Ace Combat. I mean, that's their slogan, nothing else comes close.
Bombs away. Walk's battalion is a small-scale unit. Don't let the enemy surround them. They'll need the best backup you've got to offer.
The closest game for me that, or flight sim for me that I've had the most fun with was Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader for the GameCube. But even then, it's not Ace Combat.
Bombs away. Garuda 1, ESM is active.
Usable VTOL, huh?
Enemy chopper shot down.
Although I am having fun with Crimson Sky's High Road to Revenge. But I've never played Hawks. I've never played War Thunder. Oh, it did?
Talisman, don't go thinking we can win this war all by ourselves.
Is- Is the stream okay for everyone else?
Don't be afraid to request allied support.
Enemy forces have been dealt a heavy blow. All planes, move
Okay.
into action against any forces still.
I asked because it's already died on me once today.
I won't let them get away.
Enemy facility was destroyed. Just cross over the safety line and head back to base if you need supplies. Half of the remaining enemy forces are down.
We're halfway there.
Oh, we're halfway there.
Garuda 1, ESM is
Oh,
active.
living on a prayer. Oh. You were singing a Bon Jovi song. You are instantly demonetized. Copyright strike. Your channel is doomed.
Garuda 1, bombs away. cleared of enemy forces. Mission complete. Get back to base.
Looks like I won the bet.
All right.
That's one step closer to Grace Maria.
Well, we've tested all the
I've got a hunch we'll be going
F-15s.
home a lot sooner with you on board. I'm counting on you, Talisman.
So next up is my rankings, which will be tough because, like the flanker, there are no bad F-15s.
Thanks to your efforts. This
So we'll just get back to the hangar. Okay, so number one, without a doubt, for me, 5 scanning is coming. We're fallen France and Eurofighter in Spain. What do they have for the UK? Tornado? Anyway. Oh, so they still have the Tomcat, okay. Wonder why France and Spain get specialized EU aircraft, while the rest of the world has the Tomcat. So, rank 1 is Cypher. I love this plane. I love the lore in its description. I love the livery. I love the fact that its gun is so fast. The lack of defense is an issue, but it's never been a problem for me. This plane, or this Cypher plane, will get you through the entire campaign easy. The only issues are going to be Pastor Bastard, but any plane that doesn't have QAMs or an EML is going to have a hard time against Pastor Bastard. Number 2, fittingly enough, is Pixie. He basically has near identical stats to Cypher. It's just that he's got a little bit less in the way of speed and air-to-air prowess, but he picks it up in stability. Number 3, the Rosgreaves model. It's basically a base F-15, but tankier. Also, everything looks good in Rosgreaves black. You cannot deny it. 4 is the Idolmaster. Massive increases to speed, mobility, and stability, along with increases to weapon loadout for your AMRAAMs and FFSs. The only problem with this aircraft, the reason why it's number 4, is because if you take damage, your plane stalls out and you dive about 20 feet. Not a problem if you're in the middle of a... Yes, it does include AAA. So it's not a problem if you're at high altitude. But if you're doing a low-to-the-ground strafe run about 20 feet above the ground, and you get hit with a stray bullet from an AA gun, you're dead. I can't tell you how many times in Anya landing, while I was doing strafing rounds against the pillboxes, I get hit and I'm immediately dead. You go from 0% to 10% damage to just flat out dead because of the crash. But it's fun to fly. As long as you don't get hit, you're golden. Number 5 is the base. It's a jack of all trades aircraft to begin with. There's a reason why this is Talisman's canon plane. For a game that's primarily focused on multi-role and adaptability, this is a perfect choice for the box plane. And then in last place is Active Stripes. And the only reason why it's so low is due to the low weapon count compared to the others. But just because it's a low rank doesn't mean it's not a good plane. All of these are tremendous planes. It's just that's where they fall. Or fell. Anyway, next week, starting Thursday, we go to part 8, where we look at the Rafale. And just a preview, we've got the base, Espada 2, Rosgrees, and the Shining Wing. We also have an Idolmaster, but we're not going. But if you want to see that, my Idolmaster stream is available. Tomorrow I'm off, and then Saturday we will pick back up with Halo Combat Evolved, Mission 2. So I hope to see you then. Thanks for joining me, and may the Golden King smile upon you.